I am on a quest to play every Nintendo 64 game ever. Today, we're going airborne because it's time to review the action-packed combat flight simulator Aerofighters Assault. This, right here, was all I played growing up for plane-based games. That wasn't the only airplane-based game I grew up on. I also grew up on the best of the best. Wait, wrong one. The best of the best. I stumbled upon Aerofighters Assault shortly after having an obsession with Ace Combat music. I found it lying under a golden, angelic light at a retro game store, and I had unrealistically high expectations for it. This game is rated KA for kick-ass. Aerofighters Assault is the final game in the Aerofighters series, so you know how this review is going to go. This series is actually called Sonic Wings in Japan, which sounds immensely cooler. Assault puts the player in the cockpit of a really cool plane to fly around and fight other aircraft and blow up giant enemy machines or weaponry. It's like Ace Combat, but for Nintendo, and with inferior music. But that's okay because that's a really high bar. Now what is this game? What do you do? Where do you go? Where do you fly? Why are you flying? Well, what dictates the objective in this game is the story, which is a story, I think. It's something. From what I could gather from the main story is that there's some otherworldly threat on Earth that made base in the North Pole and didn't come here to deliver presents unlike other North Pole residents. This should have been titled Aerofighters Santa's Assault. There isn't much story there, and they just kind of assume you understand what's going on, but I got nothing. The whole game is like a campy B-movie. One minute you're destroying a giant mech in Tokyo and it's awesome and badass, and then next you're stopping a fleet of planes from destroying New York City. Not attacking, destroying. Thank goodness the fate of New York City is in the hands of 4 planes. That's definitely enough. 4 individual planes. Sure. The reason why you have just 3 teammates in most maps is probably because of the hardware. This game pushed the limits of the N64, and the game makes that abundantly clear. It runs at a solid 12 frames per second, probably less. It's honestly a painful experience sometimes. This is one of those games I'd rather play on an emulator because of how much better it'd run. But I did the legitimate experience for an honest review. I suffered for you. I'm dramatizing it a bit. The frame drops aren't too inconvenient, it just slows down everything. It's only really frustrating when you're in a dogfight with another plane, or while turning in a dogfight. Basically everything revolving around a dogfight, especially turning. Why does turning around take a decade? Why is it this slow? This is ridiculous. This is unacceptable. I have aged centuries because of how often I had to turn so slowly.
It's been 84 years.
The slow turning seems to be a thing in most open-aired plane games, so I can't deduct points too harshly, but they could have sped it up. The aiming and control takes a little to get used to as well. It really reminds me of Star Fox Zero. Tough to start, but great once you get the hang of it, like my videos. The controls are very dated. As mentioned before, they're slow and clunky, and the frame rate doesn't help. It's concerning when the most optimal way to control your plane is to kamikaze yourself into an objective every time you need to turn around. I eventually grasped the controls once I got to what everyone considers to be the most difficult level, Fortress. It's a large fortress surrounded by turrets in a circular valley, which is also loaded with more turrets. It's hell. But I loved it! Unfortunately, I had to experience a few hours of pain before the romance arose, though. But isn't that every relationship? A lot of the levels are enjoyable. Some more than others.
You fucking plane!
There are 8 main missions, with a handful of bonus missions which have bullshit prerequisites. get a high score of over 180,000 on the first 2 missions combined. Excuse me? That's impossible? It's not actually impossible because I saw someone online do it, but they were probably cheating. To me, the bonus missions don't exist. I am not going to force myself to grind these first 2 levels until I get frame-perfect results just for a bonus mission where you, get this, dock your plane. What kind of Pokemon anime filler ass level is that? Give us some good bonus levels, like the shit in Donkey Kong Country. That's pristine. Unfortunately, unlocking and clearing all the bonus levels gives you a final mission in space, which sounds really cool, but it's not worth doing. So yeah, those bonus missions don't exist in my eyes, and I 100%ed this game. Okay, not really. I've 100%ed almost every game I've reviewed thus far. You gotta give me a break on this one. It's fine, I'll get my space mission fixed in a Metroid game. That's enjoyable. But do you know what isn't enjoyable? The voice acting.
I'm in hot.
Now you will die.
Whoa, gnarly! This guy is toast!
The voice acting is bad, but it kind of fits the campy setting of the game. The game offers 5 pilots to pick at first, and 2 more can be unlocked later on. Each pilot comes equipped with different weapons and voice lines. This adds replay value for those looking to experience the entire cast. Unfortunately, these pilots aren't balanced whatsoever. There is a clear very good pilot and a very clear bad pilot. Any pilot who has the ninja laser is automatically the best, and if you're like me and want to get through the story quick, you pick that bad boy. The worst part is that this unbalance carries over to multiplayer, which is disheartening. But which N64 game actually had balanced multiplayer? Scratch that, I have a better question. Which N64 game had a banging soundtrack? Aerofighters Assault. Which N64 game had music that made me feel like I was in the cockpit of a plane? Aerofighters Assault. And which N64 game had a song that blew my mind? That's right, Kirby 64, have you heard Above the Clouds? A word of caution, please check your daily local fire danger before watching this video any further, because the world has experienced enough tragic wildfires, we don't need more. Oh my god, it fits! This music was the highlight of my playthrough. I enjoyed listening to every song, to every note, as I fumbled around in the sky at 2 frames per second, trying to shoot down my opponents. I never got tired of this music. I am a fan. I have it downloaded on my phone. I will blast in my car. I have blasted it in my car. It's amazing. I love it. Damn, if only the game was as good as the music. I feel like that's the case for a lot of games. Aerofighters Assault, back in 1997? 7.3 out of 10. The controls are clunky today, but that was the norm back then. It rocks as a combat flight sim from the 90s. You just have to remember, it's from the 90s. And this game deserves more praise, and I'm sure there are many who have nostalgia towards it, and that's completely valid. But of course, it was only good in the 90s. This game has not held up, and it shows. Do not play this game. Play Ace Combat instead, or even Star Fox. Many games control way better than this janky mess does now. 2.6 out of 10. I still enjoyed it, but you know what they say, old controls die hard.